My name is Brandon Johnson. I'm the mayor of your beloved city.
From the classroom,
Welcome to the west side of Chicago.
to the picket line, to the fifth floor.
Together, we can build a better, stronger, safer Chicago.
Chicago's 57th mayor is forging a path unlike any other chief executive that's come before.
His progressive agenda aims to make the city more equitable, and at the halfway point of his term, Brandon Johnson has delivered some campaign promises.
I was elected to invest in people, and that is exactly what I'm doing.
But the rookie mayor's first 2 years have been full of bumps: the migrant crisis, teen takeovers, the fight for control of CPS.
It won't be enough until every single child has everything that they need in this city.
Washington grilled him.
I've been amazed at how tone deaf you have been.
City Council defied him.
This matter has been voted down.
I've never seen this kind of vote.
As Mayor Johnson tries to steady the ship, questions linger about his leadership.
People don't trust this mayor. They don't trust any of the decisions he's making.
And relationships with fellow political heavyweights.
He has my direct number. He doesn't call very often.
Tonight, Mayor Brandon Johnson answers our questions and yours.
Live on WGN TV and radio, a town hall with Mayor Brandon Johnson starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Micah Mater.
And I'm Taman Bradley. Tonight, this former social studies teacher turned mayor takes our midterm exam. A 1-hour special event, nothing off limits.
And we are joined tonight by a live studio audience. Chicago residents and representatives from local community groups are here to bring their questions directly to you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Johnson, thanks for joining us. We'd like to use our time tonight to address public safety, education, and economic development.
So let's start off with public safety, because it's a big deal for everybody. April saw the fewest homicides in Chicago since February of 2015. Your administration has made large investments in violence prevention, but the Trump administration has closed the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. It's frozen millions of dollars. Are you taking credit for the drop in crime here, and what are you doing to make up for those lost funds?
Well, good evening, Chicago. Thank you, Micah and Taman, for being a part of this town hall. Well, look, as I've always said, public safety is my top priority. I made that very clear when I was running for mayor, and it's something that is close to me every single day. Living on the west side of Chicago in Austin, the most dynamic neighborhood in the entire country, but yet we have been riddled with disinvestment, and unfortunately, when disinvestment occurs, violence usually follows. But what we have experienced over these first couple of years since I've been in office, where we've taken a full force of government approach, where policing and investing in affordable homes, policing and investing in mental health care services, policing and youth employment, where we've increased the number of youth jobs by 45% since I've been in office. And as a result, you've seen a decline in violence. Now, look, our best days, I believe, are still in front of us. But as you said, Micah, April was the fewest amount of homicides since 1962 in a single month. And we've already seen over 22% decrease in violent crime. When I was sworn in and I was brought into this position by the voters, I brought together our police department, I brought together our deputy mayor of community safety, where we looked at the strategies so I can better understand how we can reduce violence in the city. We focused our attention on the 35 most violent beats in the city of Chicago. We've seen a decline in every single area of violence in those particular beats. If we can solve it, violent crime in 35 of the most violent beats in the entire city of Chicago, we can certainly take that around the city, and we're doing that.
Let's stay with this topic. As we mentioned, Mayor, we have a live studio audience with us tonight, and to bring them into this discussion, WGN TV anchor Lourdes Duarte.
Yeah, and so many great questions tonight, and these are questions that they wrote themselves, they came up with themselves. We did not help them along the way. We do want to start in Streeterville, and with Stephanie Keys. You're a part of the organization known as SOAR, which is Streeterville Organization of Active Residents. And you've got a question when it comes to public safety.
Yes. Are there plans to engage the parents of these teens that are gathering in Streeterville? As well as, is there any consideration for the faith leaders, community activists, teachers, so that there's a full approach so that these teens understand that their behavior is unacceptable and that they face possible repercussions?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I had a chance to meet with SOAR and many people in the Second Ward and Streeterville, River North, to have this important conversation. around how do we respond to these large gatherings. You know, look, one large gathering is one too many. My goal ultimately is to keep people safe, and obviously we're moving in a positive direction. What we've experienced, though, is that, to your question, ensuring that we have community-based organizations, faith leaders, business leaders, the full force of government all coming together to do a couple of things. One, hold people accountable, which we have, right? There are fewer arrests, particularly around curfews, than we've seen in almost a decade. But it's also about creating opportunities. And one of the things that I appreciated about the conversation that we had in River North and Streeterville, that everybody is committed to preventing these gatherings from happening, but also creating more spaces for our young people to engage in. That's why this summer we're working with our youth-led commission to provide activating spaces throughout the summer and throughout the year that young people are leading. We have a new general superintendent in our parks, and so we're going to work with our park district leaders, working with our libraries, working with our school district to engage parents and families to ensure that young people are in safe spaces and they're not creating the type of havoc that we have seen on occasion.
Mayor, you mentioned curfews. City Council is debating whether or not to give police a tool whereby the superintendent or the district commander can order a 3-hour curfew in any part of the city. Yes or no, do you support that?
Well, the first thing that I've made very clear, the concentrated curfew that was initially being proposed, I was absolutely against, because of all of the rigorous studies that have been done, there's no evidence that having a sweeping or even a narrow curfew would reduce violence. And so we have to do the things that work. We can't get into this knee-jerk reaction, because that's the type of governance that has happened before, and that's how you end up selling off the Skyway. That's how you end up having the selling off the parking meters. When you have those type of knee-jerk reactions, that's how you end up criminalizing behavior. And we incarcerate more people in America than anywhere else in the world. And so what we have done is I brought people together to have a conversation around how do we prevent these gatherings from happening, because that's the most important thing that we have to do.
We have another audience question. Tina wants to ask your question.
That's right, and this is a junior high school student. It's always nice to hear from the students themselves. And you have a question. You wanted to give a little bit of context of what led to your question, so I'll let you begin.
Yes, so over the month, we've been hearing from some elected officials that young people gathering downtown has been a problem in need of fixing. What we don't hear is why young people, especially young people from communities that has been disinvested, gather downtown. We know that young people from the West and South Side go downtown to escape the deep challenges in our neighborhoods that we face. We know that you understand this and you know your reality and that you have stood up to it. We know that there is no one solution that will help address the issues that youth face, but as a young person that lives in these communities, we know what works. So my question is, will you commit to creating a task force developed by young people and adult allies to create alternative strategies to address the youth mental health, youth leadership, development, and programming in targeted zip code areas like the West and South Side of the city?
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Thank you for that question, and congratulations to the class of 25 and the graduating class of 26. My son is a junior, looking forward to him not leaving the city of Chicago and staying close to me. You know, look, absolutely, I can make that commitment. In fact, we're already doing that. Working with youth leaders, our violence prevention organizations, the faith community, the business community, we all have to come together to make sure that we're showing up for young people. Here's why that's important to me. You know, when I think about the traditions of our people, once upon a time when we would greet each other, we would always ask this question: how are the children? And the elders would ask that question because if you can answer emphatically that the children are well, it speaks to the society, that the society is strong. If we cannot answer emphatically that our children are well, then all of us have to come together to ensure that young people are well, that the frame of young people feeling the need to escape their communities in order to experience fun and vibrancy, that's a problem. And that's why we're working with our youth commission. We're working with the business community, the community, also community-based organizations, where we all can come together to collectively to ensure that our parks, our schools, our communities as a whole have spaces that are safe, that young people can experience the joy and the beauty of our beloved city.
Mr. Mayor, we also asked our viewing audience to weigh in tonight, and Charles from Englewood has a question about policing tools like ShotSpotter. He writes, why would you cancel ShotSpotter before the better options you're exploring are implemented? As a senior living in Englewood, I'd rather have something in place rather than the nothing that is in place right now. And given how long it takes for some city policies, programs to be put in place, how long will you have to wait for better options to be implemented?
Well, thank you, Charles from Englewood. Here is what I will say to that. First of all, again, community safety is my top priority. And as we have seen, the investments that we are making, we're seeing a decline in violent crime across the city. Here's what we know about ShotSpotter. When it was first implemented in 2018, there was an actual surge in violence in the city of Chicago. In fact, the selling of this particular device promised that it would keep people safe, that it would prevent homicides from happening. Well, clearly that didn't work, right? Between 2021 and 2022, there were 30,000 false alarms because the detection in and of itself responded to noise. And what was happening was it actually slowed down response and it didn't prevent people from being harmed. Now, here's one thing that I do regret, Charles, that I made a campaign promise to cancel ShotSpotter, but I expressed an openness and a willingness to keep it. What I regret is that I should have done a better job at explaining why we were getting rid of it. Because here's the thing, it cost the city of Chicago $60 million, Charles. $60 million for a device that didn't work. In fact, $60 million is equivalent to 1,000 police officers. I didn't believe that it was appropriate for the government to continue to put millions of dollars behind something that wasn't working. And the proof is in the pudding at this point, because violent crime has gone down. April, again, one of the least amount of shootings since 1962, or homicides rather, since 1962. And so we do have an open RFP, right, where we will explore other forms of technology, but that's not the only technological tool that we've been able to use. We use the DNC as leverage to get us another helicopter. We have now 3 brand new helicopters that we're able to deploy throughout the city. And so I get that people felt the need to keep it, even though it wasn't working, and I needed to do a better job to explain that to voters so that people understood the rationale behind getting rid of something that we spent $60 million to have, and that it didn't produce the results that it promised to do.
All right, Lourdes has a question from the audience.
All right, we've got Marcus Simpson here. He's from the Austin neighborhood, and you're a part of an organization known as Institute for Nonviolence, and you basically help young people with resources and opportunities of what they can do in their lives. You have a question for the mayor. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening.
Good
Thank
evening.
you for your time.
Of course.
Given the growing body of evidence showing that community violence intervention is saving lives and reducing shootings, homicide rates have declined for the last 3 years. What can we do together to ensure that CVI, alongside law enforcement, become a permanent component of Chicago's public safety strategy?
Yeah, thank you for that question, and thank you, and to all of our community violence interrupters that have fanned out throughout the entire city of Chicago, and you all have played an incredible role in reducing violence. Now, we put forth in our last budget $100 million for violence prevention, of which we have already appropriated dollars for CVI to continue to do the work in the neighborhoods. And here's why that's important. The people who are closest to the challenges and the pain, who have the lived experiences, have to be a part of the solution. And so working with the county, the state, there's a commitment from the business community as well to ensure that we are growing and expanding CVI. Unfortunately, the solipsistic urges of the federal government and this particular president has continued to create a great deal of animus and hostility towards programs like CVI. And so we have to challenge the federal government to make sure that they are investing in CVI. And here's the thing, it's actually working in red states as well. I just hosted the U.S. Conference of Mayors a week ago, where we had mayors all over the country, as well as police chiefs and superintendents, all calling for full investment in CVI. So we have to continue to organize, push the federal government to ensure that those dollars are not removed from our budget, but know as mayor of the city of Chicago, working with the state, working with the county, I am fully committed to make sure that CVI and programs that you run stay within the full force of government so that we can continue to get the results that we've received so far. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Another audience question for you, Mayor.
All right, and next up, I've got a senior high school student, volleyball player, Isaac Hall. Isaac, you have a question for the mayor.
Mayor Johnson, what are you and your team doing over the next 2 years to invest in youth like me, as in creating employment, youth-led activity, and safe spaces for places that don't have many opportunities?
Yeah, well, thank you for that question, and congratulations. I hope that whatever you decide to do after high school, that you remember that the city of Chicago is your home, and I want to create an environment where you can grow your family here. Since I've been in office, I have made it my mission to expand youth employment. This summer, there will be 29,000 jobs for young people. I want young people between the ages of 14 to 24 to apply. We had a pilot program last year with streets and sanitation where 75 seniors participated in this pilot program. Of those 75, 55 of them have full-time jobs with the city of Chicago. They're a part of a union. Many of them are earning more than their parents. This year, that pilot program has now 100 seniors that we will employ, and we're hoping that all of them are committed to us. The other thing that we're doing is we're making sure that we're creating stronger pathways for young people who are graduating to go into our community colleges. There's been an 12% increase in people registering in our community colleges. The number one subgroup that's registering at our community colleges are young Black men. We're going to continue to create more opportunities for a pathway to not just your traditional post-secondary, but also to create opportunities for young people to go into the trades as well. So the youth employment increase is a 45% increase since I've been in office. The last thing that I'll say is this. You, like many young people, have a tingle in your heart. And I always refer to that tingle as that's your purpose. That's the thing that you care about. I want you to find your purpose. What I want for my children, I want for every single child across Chicago. And that's why we have put millions of dollars in your development, for youth employment. But we've also created spaces for a youth advisory commission, which we have, I believe, 40 young people who are a part of that commission, and they help guide and direct how my administration shows up for young people. So it's not just about creating jobs, it's about creating power in spaces where you can influence government, because whatever's inside of you, you fulfill and find that purpose and you duplicate it, multiply it, other people will benefit from it. As a former public school teacher, as a father, I want you and every single young person across the city to be able to find that purpose, duplicate and multiply it, and then, of course, set up shop right here in the city that you were raised in.
Isaac, were you happy with that answer?
I'm very happy with that answer. Thank you, Mayor Johnson, for your time.
All right.
Thank you.
Tonight's town hall is being simulcast on WGN Radio, and we're pleased to have WGN Radio host Lisa Dent with us tonight. Lisa.
Oh, good evening, Lisa.
How are you?
Hello, Mayor.
Hello, Lisa Dent, my favorite radio host in all of America.
Thank you. You're the first mayor in 90 years to live in Austin. Currently, the Chicago neighborhood with the largest amount of homicides in the first 4 months of this year. You're a husband, a father, a neighbor. You know there are safety concerns. And you've pointed out, and it's been pointed out, that crime numbers are trending down. But sometimes perception outweighs statistics. Right. So what do you say to Chicago residents or the visitor who has heard about the reputation of Chicago that would make them feel safe?
Yeah. Look, you brought up an important point. I can do millions of things, or as a government, we could do hundreds of thousands of things to increase the safety for people. But if they don't feel it, then it's almost as if it doesn't exist. And so one of the things that we have to do, and this is why this town hall is so important, is that I have to do a better job at engaging and speaking directly to the people of Chicago. That's why this town hall is important. We're doing lakeside chats with the business community, with the faith community. We're working to bring in our business leaders so that we can continue to tell the story of the beauty of our city. And as you pointed out, Austin, it's a beautiful neighborhood. Once upon a time, it had a 100% employment rate. But it's also a neighborhood where schools have been closed. It's also a neighborhood where people have been pushed and forced out of our community. What we saw last year, for instance, we saw tremendous decline in violence in Austin, which is the 15th police district. And the #1 neighborhood that hired the most amount of young people were from the neighborhood of Austin. Almost 1,700 young people received summer jobs in Austin. I believe there's a direct correlation between the 1,700 young people that we activated to help them find their purpose and the decline that we are experiencing. No one is going to argue that we still have a lot of work to do, but we also have to recognize that as a community, we have a shared responsibility to communicate the effective work that we're doing, and then of course continue to coordinate and collaborate and bring people together so that that story can spread.
All right, Mayor, we are off and running, cooking with gas, electric, whatever it is, but we got to take a short break.
So far, you good? You good?
Really, thank you for saying electricity, because that's a more progressive form to talk about.
All right, we'll talk about it after the break.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson in just a moment.